into this, I want you to understand that you don't need to know the you don't need to know the moon sign or the ascendant sign for these tactics to work on specific people. Now, I will say this: it'll help you, but it's not necessarily it's not necessary, right? So, when you take into consideration that influence is the same thing as manipulating, influence and directing is the same thing as manipulating. Look at how marketing works. A lot of companies use the color red. A lot of industries use the color red, such as the food industry, to make you hungrier, to influence you in certain ways. Now, if you think about it, fashion designers use the color red to catch your eye and to make you think sexual thoughts and to draw you towards their article of clothing. And food uses that color to make you feel hungry. When you apply it like that, when you apply it in a way where it could be more subjective, it could be something where it doesn't really, it just depends, it's situational. And a couple of these things that I'm going to give you, it is very basic, and I'm going to break it down. For example, some one thing, Aries, I wrote pride. Pride is just a universal masculine trait. Something like love for Taurus. That's just something that's universal for both of the sexes. But when you apply it like that, okay, in fashion, red doesn't mean fucking hungry. It means sex. In the food industry, red means hungry. Okay. In fashion, green means envy. In this aspect, green means money. You have to be you have to be smart, you have to be intelligent, you have to be creative, you have to be strategic when using these. You can use them in the way where you give them too much, or you take it away, or you just use the word. But you have to pay attention to not only the person, but the situation. Now, with that being said, you have to take into account that the sun sign is, it doesn't matter what the moon sign or ascendant sign is. Like, a lot of people, I'm an Aries, and a lot of people come around me and they say, you don't act like an Aries, and I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? The reason the reason is not because I'm a Capricorn ascendant or a Libra moon. When I get around, and if you're an Aries, you know what I'm talking about. When I get around those Aries, those typical Aries that act like an Aries, when we identify each other as Aries, it's a whole different ball game. It's always a whole different ball game. It's not that they change, but they they start using their words. They start using their Martian in a different way. We have an understanding, a deep-rooted understanding of energy. We have a very deep-rooted understanding of the psychological effects of the heart on the rest of the room. When I get around another Aries, or when I see another Aries and they don't act like an Aries, we still have a mutual understanding of what needs to be happening socially. And it's very important. A Cancer might get around another Cancer, and one is energetic, more fire sign like, and one is more air sign like. They will never fucking know that they're cancers. When it's announced, they'll say, "Oh, you were born then, man. He was born then. Oh, y'all both cancers." They're not gonna have that same eye lock. They're not gonna have that same thing that Martians have, that we Aries just have. What I'm saying is, I'm gonna give you a little bit of information. So the ego is expressed. It's rooted. Its home is the solar plexus, right? It's expressed usually through the root chakra or the heart chakra. If it is expressed through the head, what's going on with that is it's how the person perceives the information and not so much how they communicate the situation. I'm a Libra moon. I don't perceive things like a Libra. But what needs to be done is I need to process these things like a Libra and communicate it to my ego so the Capricorn can do its job. Do I do that usually? No, I don't. But if I did, I'll be much better off. That's just the Martian. That's just the Martian. Now, when you take into account in America, in the Western world, usually just America and the US and Canada, we are taught that the ego is pretty much the most important fucking thing in the world. Get your own space, get your own shit, identify who you are, get out there, find yourself, get something that nobody else can get, solidify it, protect it, ground it, grow it, pass it to your kids, right? Your 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 ego is what is supposed to be fed in the Western world for you to be somebody. Now, in the Eastern world, they're thought of they think of each other more of as a culture, as a nation, as a race, as a population, as a society. So it's actions that you can take if you go somewhere. Let's say you're a Russian or you're Polish, and you go to Japan and you say, "Man, I turned up on those motherfucking Japanese motherfuckers." If you say that you went somewhere representing your nation or your neighborhood or your culture in a specific way in the Western world, I mean in the Eastern world, and you come back, they might kill you over that just for misrepresenting their culture, just for because they more so view their identity is more based on their culture and their population. If you think about it, the Japanese people have a quarter of our population in the U.S., but they live in Japan is the same size as fucking California. Now, the reason that earthquakes in Japan are so deadly, their natural disasters are so deadly, is not because they have more of them or because they're so big. It's because their their population is shoved in a country the same size as Canada. So a tsunami fucking hits, an earthquake happens. In America, it's only two people in this fucking house. In Japan, it's gonna be 6 to 10, maybe even more, on average. When you have 6 to 10 people trying to get out that little ass door, trying to get into one space that's gonna protect them from a tsunami or earthquake, of course there's gonna be more fatalities. That's because they are so deep rooted in their culture and they understand themselves as an entity, as one Japanese person, as one Japanese culture. They need less space. In America, our ego is we fucking worship our egos. So therefore, we need more space. Americans, we could never live in that situation. There are people, there are certain people that they grew. I grew up in a house with 8 people in the South Side of Chicago. That shit still didn't work. That shit still creates fucking mental illness in us. That's why people kill. That's why people kill everybody in Chicago because they grew up like that. They grew up with at least 6 people in the house. You know, but I'm gonna run down this list and I'm gonna reiterate. You don't need to know the person's sun sign, and the person doesn't need to be a strong, obvious Aries, Leo, Virgo, Capricorn. It doesn't need to be like that. You don't even need to know their moon sign or their ascendant sign. It will work because you can develop more strategic ways to use these elements. And again, it doesn't. It's not always conscious. It's not always conscious. To you, you might say, you know what? I'm a fucking Aries. This shit doesn't matter to me. It does, bro. And even if it doesn't, it does. And you might say, oh, my mom's a fucking Capricorn. That shit doesn't matter. If I tried that on her, that shit wouldn't work. Trust me, it would. Not only have I been taught this multiple times, I channeled this through the cards yesterday. And I applied this to all the relationships that I've had and all the people that I could read, and it definitely works. All right, so I'm just gonna run down the list and then I'm going to shut it off and then go record the rest of these videos. So number one, how to manipulate Aries. Mess with their pride, mess with their energy. Number two, Taurus. Love and test. Gemini. Relationships. Their population. Cancer. Sex. And what I mean by sex is complimenting them. And what I mean by complimenting them is filling in that void, filling in those holes. You know, if they're emotional, you being emotionless. If they're depressed, you being happy. I mean, that's, again, it's not just basic human science. This is based on the zodiac signs. What's going to work best for them? Leo, attention. Giving them attention or depriving them of attention. Virgo, getting them to love you as much as they hate you and hate you as much as they love you. Libra, making a Libra feel like they are bullying you. Scorpio, respect. Sagittarius, boredom and business. Capricorn, trust. Aquarius, making them think that you are being influenced by them. And Pisces, pride and making them feel like a fucking weirdo. So I want you to take those into account, and I definitely want you to watch the rest of these episodes because it gets way deeper than this. All right, it's Aaron Moses. Life is in the breath. Breathe it in. Peace.